Thank you for the opportunity to come and give some explanation with regards to our budget. With me is the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Alwyn Hales. I believe he's the longest serving Permanent Secretary in the country at the moment. And beside me is the Chief Technical Director, Dr. Dawkins, and there are other heads of agencies that are present on the team. Mr. Chairman, at this time I'll be waiving my opening remarks and I'm going straight for questions.
Do I put the page?
Yes, go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Phillips.
All right, Mr. Chairman, on to JUTC. Let's go straight to JUTC. On page 89, just in your priority of initiatives, you talk about the continued restructure of the sub-franchise operation. What new will be done, or what is it that you're trying to achieve with this restructuring?
Well, as you are aware, remember, the JUTC was set up to deal with public transportation, not only in Kingston and St. Andrew, but to expand into our rural urban service. So as part of the overall policy, we're looking to make the policy real.
Make the policy
real.
All right, including rural?
Yes, sir.
With the JUTC?
For example, we are down into Clarendon already, but as resources become available, but we have the policy document and the plan.
All right, since you touch on Clarendon with those school buses, the cost of running those buses out in Clarendon as it now, just for the purposes of carrying children to school, is the service itself even covering its fuel cost?
The cost of carrying children to school has no price.
No, I didn't ask you that question.
I answered you.
I have not asked you that question, Minister. With all due respect, Minister, just trying to find out, is it even covering your fuel costs to have those buses out in Clarendon as is, just for carrying, for the purposes that it is there for now?
Mr. Chairman, if we do not provide transportation for our children to go to school, it would be a backward step.
So the answer is no, it doesn't cover it.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I'm just asking if the minister can answer yes or a no.
No, you can't tell me how to answer.
I'm just asking the minister, I just asked the chairman if I can get just a simple answer, either yes or a no.
Mr. Phillips, you asked a question.
Yes, sir.
And as the minister replied?
Not to the satisfaction, sir.
Minister, you have heard the question. Have you replied?
I answered the question,
Are you
sir.
satisfied
If
with
the minister,
are you satisfied
if he
with the
doesn't
answer?
have the answer, then he can just say that he doesn't have the answer.
I answered the question.
No, if
does
you
the
are
member
not
have a
satisfied
second
with
question?
the answer, then you may raise other questions.
No, but Mr. Chairman, if it is that you are asking questions for answers that can help us, then I don't see what the difficulty is. The minister is giving me a political speech, but I'm not asking for a political speech. I'm asking for an answer. Is it that are we even covering our costs for providing those buses in Clarendon? I can't, the answer that he has given me, I can't leave anything from it.
Well, you may have to ask questions that can give you answers.
No, but ask it simple, and I know you could understand, Mr. Chairman.
I do.
Okay.
Once a question you're asking is in the book,
it is in the book.
Expenditure.
And the minister himself raised it, so I'm asking the question.
Order, please. I can't hear the member. Go ahead, Mr. Phillips.
All right, Minister. A year ago, the former minister himself and the managing director for the JUTC spoke about being overstaffed. And here we're seeing that there is expected increase in the staff complement at the JUTC. Can you state how it is, or what area is this increase in staff complement, and why isn't, since there was a big issue of being overstaffed by 500 to 600 workers, and looking at your bus rollout, you're going to be rolling out less buses, but you're employing more persons. In what area are we going to be employing these people?
Mr. Chairman, we started off in 2016 at 2,400 plus employees. Today, we are at 2,008.
And you're going up to 2,178.
Even if we go to 2,100, it will still be less than 2,004.
No, but you are having a less rollout than bus rollout than you had in 2016. So
we had a less bus rollout because we have a program of repairing buses, and we will be increasing the bus rollout once the repairs and refurbishing of the buses get going.
Yeah, but in the public bodies, you expected a higher bus rollout in this last financial year. You have stated here that you will be having a bus rollout of 385, which is less than what you had anticipated even for this financial year. So I don't see how it is that you're going to be increasing your bus rollout because you're increasing your labor force. So just asking the area, is it in the servicing department? Is it, I mean, you know, bus washers? Are you employing more managers at your depots? What area?
Because we are going through the process of procurement, we were not able to complete it by the end of this financial year.
Complete what?
So the repairs and refurbishing. The allocation was made, and that was why the projection was there. So that will have to be done early because we have the application before the NCC for them to give us final guidance and their thoughts on the whole process. Once that is finished, we will be able to refurbish the buses. So that is why we were not able to complete that exercise for this financial year that we are in. But the upcoming financial year, we will be able to do that.
But are you sure that you will be able to do any repairs to the buses? Because you asked in the 18-19 financial year for $2 billion for parts, and you ended up getting 1.2. So what you're using to buy these parts?
It was made up in the supplementary estimates, member.
No, it wasn't.
And we have sufficient parts.
I challenge you on that. You don't have no sufficient parts.
Yes, we have parts.
I challenge you on that.
You can challenge me, sir. It is your right so to do.
Of course it is my right.
But I will take you on a visit to the warehouse.
Here, you have an estimated 1.22. There was no addition in the supplementary budget for additional parts.
My advice, and to my certain knowledge, we do have parts.
No, I'm speaking about what was projected and what you actually got on parts is $800 million less.
My advice is that we have parts.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this reminds me of another place at another time, but it's all right. Yeah. Mr. Minister.
Yes, sir.
How much is required? How much money is required for parts that would be able to bring your buses back up to about 450?
It is not really parts, Mr. Chairman. We need to go through a program of total refurbishing, which we have the funds to begin the process. We have gone through the procurement. The documentation is at the NCC now because...
How much money is needed?
To bring it to the 420 that you spoke to member, it would be about $2 billion.
And how much is it that you already have towards that? Because in this, it is projected that in this 2019-20, 1.3 billion for parts alone.
We have 250 in hand right now for the refurbishing, not just parts alone, for the refurbishing. And we need to separate the refurbishing from the parts.
You have 250
50 for the 250 million for refurbishing.
And how many buses you will get that with that 250 million?
15 buses.
15, which is still below what it is that you're actually required to.
That is correct.
Yeah. All right. The transport centers on page 90. Is it that the JUTC has taken over the Half-Way Tree Transport Center?
No.
Yeah, it was in the last financial year you had said that you're taking over the management and there was an allotment.
The JUTC has not taken over the transport center.
So it is still Port Authority that manages?
No.
Who manages the Half-Way Tree Transport?
The Transport Authority.
The Transport Authority. All right. On your accounts payable on page 93, it increases by about $200 million. Yeah. Can you say what would bring your accounts payable up? Estimated in 2018-19, 12 billion, and this is 14.
Can you be a little bit more specific?
Look at page 93. If you look at the page, you'll see the increase. What is causing that increase?
No, payable. What is accounting for the accounts payable? Oh, it includes the $1+ billion in statutory payables.
Payables. Okay.
And penalties and everything, interest.
All right, Minister, you fall short of your projected revenue fare box by about $1 billion. All right? You are going to be rolling out less buses, or you are projected to roll out less buses. Is it still a policy of the government not to procure any new buses to replenish the fleet?
I believe we have in our stores 5? Yes, 5 new buses.
Yep.
LNG buses.
5 new buses.
Yes. So while we are pursuing a program of refurbishing, we're also acquiring.
What's the average age of your buses that you have?
Between 8 and 10 years old.
And what's the average cost of maintaining those buses?
Approximately 90 million per month for the fleet.
For the fleet. And do you expect that because your projected fare boxes with the lower rollout of buses, that you would even meet this expected increase in revenue?
We are, because we are taking some steps to slow down. Well, let me rephrase that. We are taking some steps to ensure that whatever fares are paid are actually collected by the company. So what we are doing, we are installing, for example, a people counter on the buses to ensure that we have an accurate count of the persons to come. So you balance that against the fare box. We are moving to a mobile money platform so you can use credit off your cell phone or your QR code to pay your fares. So we are taking some initiatives to stem any leakage, if there is any, and to ensure that what is paid is actually returned to the company.
But you're...
Plus, there is the tracking system, that a fleet management system that will be on, because once the bus leaves the depots, the management does not have sight unless an inspector checks the bus. And we did an experiment, and for your information, what we found, that we have an average of about 40% of the times the buses are idling. So the cost of running the buses is going up. They park the buses sometimes with the air condition on, the bus is empty. There was an instance where one bus was parked on a depot all night trackling. So the fleet management system we are introducing will be able, management will be able to have a better handle on a lot of these. They are very small, but when you add them up over time, they give you a considerable amount of money.
Is it that the
It was before him.
The smart card, is it that that system is dead? Why the reduction in discounts? Meaning,
what has happened with the smarter card is that the system is about to come to the end of its useful life this year. So the technology is getting old. It is also an offline system. So a person, well, it is offline. What we are moving to is a new system which is online, and it allows the company to reconcile their accounts immediately.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that, because as I said, for the last 3 years you have been seeing at least a 15 to 20% reduction in your fare box, and you're rolling out less and less buses with your need for repair and maintenance going up actually every year, but you're getting less and less resources for the maintenance of the buses. So I'm still not convinced that what you're doing is going to put you in a better position for
not
the survival of
you
the...
don't understand.
No, I'm not convinced.
Okay,
I clearly understand. I'm not sure if you understand, but I'm convinced. Yeah? All right. Moving to Transport Authority. Page 307. Yeah, push.
While the spokesman is getting ready to ask the other question, you're talking about using smart cards on the buses. I mean, they're presently using them.
No.
You intend to change that system?
Different technology.
I recently visited a country where all the cards that you have, like the debit cards, credit cards, and so on, it has a magnetic system. You just touch and go in. Is that kind of a system that?
Yes, sir. That's where we're going. Remember, this system that is there now, this year, 2019, it will come to the end of its useful life, because we can't even get parts to repair the fare box, the reader for the card.
Yeah, just on page 310, on projects, there's a increase in building and freehold improvement, a total of $116 million. Just building freehold improvement, page 310.
He is refurbishing and expanding the NRO office, the North Coast office.
116 million.
Plus the Savlamar office as well.
All right. Any movement on the sale of the Jamintel building?
No. Cabinet is looking at we have been advised by Cabinet to relook at the divestment and bring in the Jamaica Development Bank to assist us with the divestment.
Okay. All right. Airports Authority on page 79. Well, before finish with Transport Authority, the on the sale of those 3 buses or 4 buses, can you state, Minister, if you have collected for those buses, or has the JUTC paid any of the monies towards the buses, and also the Caribbean Maritime
I understand that the CMU and JUTC were the purchasers.
Mm-hmm. So I'm asking if JUTC has paid any money towards the buses.
Yes.
How much?
I will have to get the figure, the how much figure to you.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
One question on the bus for you, because you might not need to come back. We might need to come back to the buses. Yes. You're drunk?
Go ahead, member. No, I'm not drunk. He asked the question. He asked the question.
The previous minister was asked about Wi-Fi in the buses. I understand that it was diverted. That should be asked of you. What is the status of this particular service on the JUCT?
We have rolled out Wi-Fi in some of our buses, and the program to roll them out into all the buses is ongoing.
Can you say which routes are they? I mean, it would be. I'm particularly interested in.
We have 70 buses currently with Wi-Fi, and we are rolling out more.
How many of those
over time.
buses traverse the Portmore area?
I will get back. I will get back to you with that.
RTA Act. What's it called again there? I'm trying to remember them.
Chairman, I believe you can put the pages.
Minister.
Order, please. Order, please.
Last.
Members, give Mr. Phillips the chance. Go ahead.
Just on page 82, to do with the Airports Authority. Just want to know what is the, not that I'm questioning, the more revenue the better, but the concession fee in the current revenues, concession fee for Montague Bay, Jamaica Airport, jumping from consistently at 1.5 billion, jumped to 4.22. What is...
What they did, they have, because it's the same company, the Norman Manley, it's combined with the Sangster.
Sangster, okay, yeah. So they've combined
they've combined, and that will be
the concession revenue. To do with aerodromes here, projects. $1 billion spent in the last financial year, 2018-19. Can the minister say what were those projects?
There is an expansion program at Ian Fleming, as well as purchase of some fire equipment for Negril.
All right, and the spend on the project in Clarendon at Vernon Field, where in the expenditures would we find that then? And how much was spent on that project?
50 million so far on the Clarendon project.
And what was that 50 million spent on?
I will get back to you on the details of that, sir.
Minister, you have Mr. Diedrich there behind
Right, and that
you.
is why I do not want to mislead the House. So I will get back to you with the full details.
Was that 50 million spent on bushing, Minister, for clearing the site?
I will get back to you with the full details of the spend, sir.
All right, so is the spend on Burnham Field in that $1 billion? And what is expected to be spent on Burnham Field this year out of this 502 million that is budgeted for this year?
$200 million for the upcoming financial year.
Out of this 500 million.
Yeah,
so,
but the 50 was in the
previous.
Yes, and then the projected spend is 200.
I remember clearly that there was about 300 million that was slated in the last financial year, 2018-19. So
it was in the budget, but it was not all spent because we are very meticulous in abiding by the procurement guidelines.
How you know that? You can't tell me what $50 million was spent on.
And to observe, sir, we are very meticulous in observing the procurement guidelines. We also want to deal with the tenets of transparency and accountability, and that is why I would like the time to properly research the thing and come back to
you. We call a pitch.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, no, Mr. Chairman.
You understand?
So, and with the project at Ian Fleming, how much out of this $1 billion was spent at Ian Fleming, and what stage are we on that project?
Just about 100 million.
And where are we on that project? What stage?
We are 75% complete.
And was that how much? 100 million?
Yes, sir.
Was it exhausted?
I do not understand the question.
Was that $100 million exhausted and the work completed that was expected or not?
That is for works to date, sir.
To date?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. We're going to rename that airdrome?
Is that a suggestion?
I'm asking the minister.
Well, that's a lovely suggestion.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I won't be taking that suggestion.
But let me ask you,
I won't
Minister.
be taking that suggestion.
Minister,
the airport is properly named.
Minister, it was proposed that there was going to be some widening of the taxiway or runway, the upgrade of some of the buildings there. What was that done in this last financial year? What aspect of that work was completed?
The widening of the runway is almost completed. Work is continuing on the terminal building.
Right, and what stage are we on the terminal building?
75%.
All right, thank you.
Minister, the Norman Manley Airport has long been privatized recently. Apart from the required works in the privatization document itself, is there room for, and has the acquiring entity proposed additional economic activities around Norman Manley, and if so, what might that be?
There are a number of projects that is included in the bid documents that they will be funding, and that will be rolled out.
Right, so I'm saying, and those are required as part of it.
In the bid document.
In addition to those, have there additional lands? Have they come forward to and allowed to present ideas, development ideas around the airport?
There are additional lands, but the concessionaire hasn't even taken over yet. It's in October before they will take charge of the entity. They are now in the process of shadowing the current executives so that we have a smooth handover.
In October?
So, in October.
Foreign Minister, I'd like to ask for your help.
You need an airport.
Yeah, the JUTC buses. The JUTC buses, where they're not on the main road and they come into communities, and I have 4 such communities. We welcome the service in the communities, like Corville Gardens and Duane Park, Seaview Gardens, but the buses are wreaking havoc on the roads. Can I look on the road? Just the weight to the buses are just damaging the roads, and they're in perpetual need of repairs. May I enlist your support? Because it used to be that as a matter of policy, JUTC used to support the maintenance of those roads to make sure that they're in a state of, because when they're not, they do damage to the buses. Yeah, they do damage to the buses themselves. So can I enlist your support, Minister, to ensure that in those communities where these buses are off-road running, that we get some support from the ministry for the maintenance and upkeep of those roads?
Mr. Chairman, the member is asking us to give some form of assistance from the JUTC to communities to maintain the roads. I am not aware that the company used to do that in the past, but what I am aware is that this administration has made exceptional provisions for the members of parliament through the CDF, and I would advise the member to use the CDF to repair the roads.
I thought you have better. Minister, just before the page, Minister, just before, Minister.
Yes, sir.
Minister, on that same matter, a resolution came to the House. I brought a resolution to ask that those roads that the JUTC traverse, they ask that they be gazetted, and the ministry of which you have responsibility should take them over so that at least they can be maintained. But to the other question, you come in next, you know.
Chairman, if the members who are raising this issue, some of them is here longer than I have been, there is the practice where roads that public passenger transport buses operate on falls under a certain dispensation within the National Works Agency. So the representation ought to be made to the National Works Agency. It is not to be made to the minister, and you're pressuring the minister, asking questions when members of the civil service have been here since 1 o'clock. I mean, those questions should have been posed yesterday,
can I move on, Mr. Chairman?
Yesterday. You're wasting time, man.
Can I move on, Mr. Chairman? Because the member knows that conveniently he will say that road is for work agency, and work agency will say conveniently that road is for the local authority. So can I move on, Mr. Chairman? I want to ask the minister a question. You know you don't have any right to be talking unless you ask for a point of order.
I have asked for it and I've gotten it.
Okay,
Mr. Minister, there was
let us keep the cross talking.
Yeah, a provision. There was a provision. Yes, there was a provision in the budget coming from a good while now that there should be a transport center for Portmore. In fact, funds have been allocated from time to time, and started, and I think that we had looked at where the funding will be coming from and all of that. Can the minister say something about it, or whether or not we have put that on the back burner, or have shelved that idea? Where are we on it?
You must check with your colleagues in Portmore before you come here and ask these questions. That project was scrapped because the location was not suitable based on where the public transport should have been located.
Order, members. That's
wasting time, man. That happened before my time, too.
Yes, sir.
Page 68,000.
No, it's transport. And transport.
Transport pages.
The question? What's the question? Oh, the Portmore Transport Center?
Transport Center.
Yes, what happened?
What is the status of it? It was on the books and should have been carried in budget, in this budget.
What the funds that were allocated was for the study, not for the construction. And during the study, it was discovered that this site, the chosen site, was not suitable.
And you know why? Because that is where we must put in the part. You will soon come. You will soon come next. In the budget from the German government.
Take your food before you come here. Before you come, you take your food before you come.
But you have a cause it, man. Unnecessary questioning and you have from 10 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that the member from East Kingston and Port Royal has a question.
Mr. Chairman, if we could move to the mining component now.
Please,
Yes.
please, gentlemen, let's hear the question. Go
Right.
ahead.
We are moving on to the mining component. Mining.
Yes, sir. We're doing very well so far.
Yes. And the minister has provided me with a whole host of information during the course of the year. So I only have two questions to seek clarification on. Firstly, in relation to the Jamaica Bauxite Mining Limited, your projected profit is falling from 236 million last year to 99 million this year, and coming from the previous year, that is 2017-18, of 132 million. So in 2017-18, you were 132 million. Profit last year, 236, and now you're falling below 100 million. What accounts for that significant fall off in your profits? Have regard to the work that the JBM does.
The fall off is a result of a number of issues. There's the expansion, there's an investment in some capital works. They had to do a lot of upgrading at the Litford site. Their partner in Gramercy, they had extensive damage during the 2017 winter. There was earlier in the year reduced prices on bauxite and alumina. There were some poor performances because of technical improvements at the Gramercy plant.
The JBI
Yes, sir.
is projecting a deficit for this year, albeit small, but how can the JBI be operating in a deficit when it is funded from proceeds of the levy, etc.? Are those revenues falling so significantly? And probably you could update us on the revenues coming into the ministry from the bauxite levy.
I think, member, JBI is projected for this financial year at 41 million.